Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. Heightened appeals for BOJ to protect Jamaicans from high bank fees. Help coming for Portland farmers devastated by heavy rain. And later in sports, former champions Arnett Gardens hunt bounce-back win in JPL action today. Thank you for joining us. I'm Kalisha Williams, and here are the details. More appeals this afternoon for the central bank to control the fees customers have to pay for commercial banking services. Member of Parliament for St. Catharines Southern, Fitz Jackson, again made the call following a similar initiative in Barbados. Halshane Burke reports.
There's yet another call for the central bank to act to protect account holders from charges imposed by local banks for certain transactions. The renewed call from Member of Parliament for St. Catharines Southern, Fitz Jackson, follows the decision by the Central Bank of Barbados on Wednesday to prohibit the imposition of fees for electronic transactions through automated clearinghouse and real-time payments transfers. The announcement comes amid reports that the CBB, which regulates commercial banks, is investigating a plan by the Bank of Nova Scotia to make it more costly for residents to do business through interbank transfers. Mr. Jackson says the Bank of Jamaica has the power to implement similar provisions in Jamaica.
As you know, in Jamaica, when you make withdrawals through whatever medium, whether you go into the bank and do a withdrawal or you make a withdrawal through the ABM machine, you do incur a charge. If you transfer funds from your account to someone else's account, you do pay a charge. The Central Bank of Barbados, they have removed all of those transferred charges that the banks would have been imposing, and in the case of BNS in Barbados, have served notice that they will increase that fee in February. And what the Barbados Central Bank have done is to really preempt that increase by removing it altogether. And I commend the Barbados government for that step.
Mr. Jackson says it's regrettable that the Minister of Finance and the Bank of Jamaica refused to take the necessary steps to prevent depositors from incurring fees for minimum transactions.
I sought to do it in the Parliament through legislation because of the ineptness of the BOJ to make such initiation. If they would do it without legislation, that would be welcomed. They are not doing their job in protecting the consumers in this country. And since we are the elected representatives of the people, we have to use the power that they gave us to protect their interests. And that's what is being sought through the bill that has been tabled for all members of Parliament to pass.
Mr. Jackson has been fighting to have the central bank control the fees customers have to pay for commercial banking services. But to date, there has been no success. Halshane Burke, TVJ News.
As heavy rain continues to devastate farms in Portland, Agriculture Minister Floyd Green has promised help. During a tour of affected communities on Wednesday, Mr. Green said special focus will be placed on river training. But as we hear in this report, it could take months before the farmers recover. It's not the water these farmers in Portland needed after being plagued by drought in 2022. For days now, heavy rain has transformed their farms into rivers, uprooting banana trees and rendering some fields inaccessible.
If we can continue like this, we might be able to use all of this farm.
These farms are located in the Rio Grande Valley, a flood-prone area which has been riddled by disasters over the years. Since the recent rain started, the river burst its banks and overflowed into the nearby farms in communities like Golden Vale, Seaman's Valley, and Bellevue.
They all damaged, but I get the worst damage of all.
So the worst damage, what happened here?
The water run right through and through. And all debris and all roots up the bananas and all kind of things,
On Wednesday, Agriculture Minister Floyd Green, East Portland MP Anne-Marie Vaz, and other officials braved the rain and flood to tour the affected communities.
We will have to get a comprehensive approach. We will take all our government approach to deal with some of these issues. We will have to do some river trading and some river cleaning. It is clear that the river is indeed of desilting, and that is why we're suffering from these challenges downstream. And what you have seen is that the farmers were proactive. So they have drainage straight through their entire property to take off the water. But when the water comes in this volume, and when the river breaks its course, they have a real challenge. So we'll have to address the issues faced by the river. It's something that I will discuss with Prime Minister Holness and Minister Warmington from the NWA.
In witnessing the devastation firsthand, Mr. Green says it has emphasized the need for urgent action in the affected areas.
We have to see how we can get our farmers back up and running as quickly as possible. So in keeping with that, we're going to see how we can craft a program of response, looking at some input things like fertilizer. The farmers have been speaking about that. We also visited some farm roads. Some are in really difficult conditions, really bad conditions, and they would have gotten worse with the rain. So we would have made a commitment to some of the farmers that next financial year, we're going to look at how we can treat with their farm road issues.
But as the rain continues, it could take months before the farmers recover. And at least one of the farmers in Portland stressed that even before the rain, the banana industry in the parish has been struggling to remain competitive. The farmer says sales have been slow, and when they do find a market, dishonest buyers use creative ways to adjust their scales and cheat the farmers. We were told as a result, many farmers feel demotivated.
Good. When they come back, they tell you, say, X amount, right.
In the meantime, significant investments will be made in the country's fisheries sector this year. That's the word from Agriculture Minister Floyd Green. This comes as fishermen have been complaining about the poor state of some of the country's fishing beaches. But this assurance from the minister.
We're going to continue the work to rehabilitate their fishing beaches as it is now. We're doing some work at the White House Fishing Beach, and we've identified a number of areas that we're going to be helping our fishers to have more comfortable surroundings in which they operate. Additionally, we're going to be bringing 2 new sanctuaries so that we continue our protection of our fisheries stock.
Among the plans, Mr. Green says, is cold storage. This will aid in preserving fishes when there is an excess catch by fishermen. Mr. Green says this will be done at 2 fishing beaches. However, he did not identify them.
We will also, in the new financial year, enhance the fisheries incentive program. We have a small program now that we help in relation to gas, in relation to implements like wire. We want to enhance that in 2024 so our fishers, especially our small fishers, will have greater support from the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries.
In the meantime, the minister is calling for more farmers to take part in the insurance scheme.
Towards the end of last year, we saw that the farmers who signed up through the ministry incentive program were able to get a payment based on the heavy rains. So we are working with GK to see how we can get more farmers on board. And I've already started a discussion with the Ministry of Finance to see if we can incentivize that so that we have greater take-up, especially across things like our agri-parks which are under our control. We want all our farmers operating in those areas to have insurance coverage. Additionally, I'm in discussion with 2 more companies who are looking to see if they can offer that sort of parametric crop insurance scheme for the country.
To other news now, the National Integrity Action, NIA, has indicated it will be making a proposal this year for lawmakers to create a bribery act. At present, acts of bribery or similar offences are covered by the corruption prevention law in Jamaica. Speaking Thursday on the morning agenda on Power 106 FM, Principal Director of the NIA, Daniel Archer, said the group is eager to see the end of corruption in the country, starting with nepotism.
We had discussions before where Madam DPP advised that nepotism is not a crime. And so one of the things we want to do is to ensure that if we advance a bribery act, that we no longer make it the norm, that there are basic things that we can put into our bribery act that would ensure that where things are done in a particular way, they are in breach, they are corrupt acts, and they can be done and prosecuted under a bribery legislation.
Ms. Archer said more effort should be placed on the prosecution of public servants. She wants the government to provide an update on the status of the Code of Conduct for parliamentarians.
We've heard the Madam Minister for Legal and Constitutional Affairs talk about the preparation of a Code of Conduct some time ago. We were expecting to have seen it in 2023. We need to see these documents. Public servants are above reproach. And that is why when you hear that they're involved, what you're asking for is for them to step down, to resign, to move along, because you do not want the office to be tainted by anything that says that it is corrupt.
And it's time for our first break here on the Midday News, but stay with us. More stories when we come back. Welcome back to the Midday News, and thanks for staying with us. 2 men are dead and another nursing injuries following a gun attack on Wildman Street in Kingston Wednesday evening. The victims have been identified as 26-year-old Akil Ainsworth, otherwise called Bull, and 30-year-old Deshane Palmer. Both men are from a Wildman Street address. Reports are that a group of men were along Wildman Street around 8:35 p.m. Wednesday when a lone gunman walked up and fired several shots at them. 3 of the men sustained injuries and were taken to the hospital for treatment. However, Ainsworth and Palmer were later pronounced dead, while the 3rd victim is still being treated. And over in Manchester, a man was shot and killed in a drive-by shooting in Greenvale District, Mandeville, last evening. His name has been given only as Gary of 14th Street in the community. Reports are that Gary was sitting on a wall near a petrol station when shots were fired from a car which drove by. Gary, believed to be in his early 50s, was shot. He was taken to hospital where he was pronounced dead. And it's now time for the Business Minute.
Consumers paid less for services associated with the housing, water, electricity, gas, and other fuels division on an annual basis up to November 2023. The Statistical Institute of Jamaica says point-to-point inflation for the grouping fell by 0.6%. For the month of November alone, the index increased by 0.5%. This was mainly due to an increase in the rates for electricity, which were up by 0.9%. The index for water supply and miscellaneous services relating to the dwelling increased by 1.3%. This was linked to higher sewage and water rates. In the U.S., consumers may soon be getting a break from the Federal Reserve. Minutes from the central bank's December policy meeting were released on Wednesday. They show the Fed expects to cut interest rate for the first time since March 2022, when its inflation curbing campaign began. According to the Personal Consumption Expenditures Price Index, inflation is just below 3% and down from the 4-decade high it reached in mid-2022. Goldman Sachs predicts rate cuts will start in March, but others don't see it happening that soon. And that's it for the Business Minute. I'm Shane Masters.
Time now for the top regional and international stories.
In the region, Mexican authorities say they have located the 31 migrants that were kidnapped while traveling by bus to an area south of the U.S. border last weekend. Reports are that gunmen stopped the bus and ordered all 36 people aboard to get off before taking off with 31 of them in 5 vehicles. The abducted migrants were from Ecuador, Colombia, Venezuela, Honduras, and Mexico. On the international scene, former U.S. President Bill Clinton and the Duke of York, Prince Andrew, are named in court documents detailing people connected to disgraced financier and sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. A New York federal judge has ordered the release of the files as part of a lawsuit related to Epstein's associate Ghislaine Maxwell, who is serving a 20-year jail term for crimes she committed with Epstein. Some of those named in the documents are accused of wrongdoing, while others are making allegations or are potential witnesses. And a Nevada judge is still nursing injuries she sustained after being attacked by a defendant in a Las Vegas courtroom during a sentencing hearing on Wednesday. In a widely circulated video, 30-year-old Dioba Reddin was seen leaping over the judge's bench before attacking Judge Mary Kay Halthus as he was about to be sentenced to prison in a felony battery case. Several others were injured, including a courtroom marshal who had to be hospitalized. And those were the top regional and international stories. I'm Amoy Harriet.
We head to a quick break. When we come back, we'll have your midday sports report. Spencer Darlington is here.